¿Qué onda, pandilla? Bienvenidos a Conversaciones de Altura, episodio 84. Soy Joel. Y bueno, Andrés y yo estamos muy emocionados de presentarles a nuestro siguiente invitado. Es alguien que yo en lo personal admiro y quiero mucho, respeto mucho su trabajo. Page Hamilton de la banda Helmet. Que bueno, Helmet ha sido una pieza clave en el desarrollo de pues, todo este sonido de música alternativa, de rock duro y pues de cierta u otra forma también en el metal Helmet ha influenciado un montón, a pesar de que a mí no me parece que Helmet como tal sea una banda de metal, pero está interesante que pues a bandas como Mastodon hasta bandas como Korn, pasando por Marilyn Manson, Norma Jean, a un montón de bandas de diferentes géneros han sido influenciados por Helmet, ¿no? Y bueno, fuera de su banda, Page ha hecho mucho más, ¿no? En el 99 formó parte del tour, bueno, de la banda en vivo de David Bowie para el tour Hours, y fue en el 99. Y fue un tour corto, habrán sido 10, 11 fechas en Europa y una en Nueva York. Pero qué privilegio, ¿no? Que David Bowie te hable y te diga, oye, güey, ¿qué pedo? ¿Quieres tocar en mi banda? Pues lo haces, ¿no? Aunque sea una fecha. Por ahí hay un video que justo le mandé a Andrés hoy. Si pueden véanlo, pónganle en YouTube David Bowie Hours Tour y nuestro invitado sale por ahí tocando. Y bueno, también ha participado en muchísimos soundtracks, ya sea con Helmet o como músico de sesión. ¿Qué películas? De las más famosas, pues bueno, está el increíble soundtrack de la película noventera Judgement, que bueno, lo interesante de ese soundtrack fue que mezclaban bandas de diferentes géneros, ¿no? En especial, bueno, más bien hip hop y metal, rock. Tenía canciones bueno, la de Helmet era con House of Pain, había una muy buena de Fate No More con Booyah Tribe. ¿Quién más estaba por ahí? Pearl Jam con Cypress Hill, me parece que Slayer con Ice-T. Una mezcla muy chida, la verdad. Y bueno, amigos, pues ya saben, búsquenos en Instagram, en Facebook, en YouTube, en Twitter y como Conversaciones de Altura. Suscríbanse, síganos, escríbanos. Y bueno, amigos, disfruten nuestra plática con Page Hamilton. Los queremos. Bye. Hola amigos, bienvenidos a Conversaciones de Altura. Soy Joel, tengo a mi co-host Andrés. Bienvenidos al episodio 84 y estamos muy emocionados porque tenemos a un gran invitado, un amigo muy querido mío, Mr. Page Hamilton. Welcome to the show, brother. We're so
Hey,
happy
guys.
to have you on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, man, it's a pleasure, and I know you are busy at the moment, so we have just a few questions to ask, and I know we're let's see where this takes us.
Sounds good.
So again, thanks, and I want to start all the way back. I want to take you all the way back to when you started studying in Stuttgart. Is that how you say it?
Stuttgart. Yeah.
And I haven't really heard you talk about this. I was preparing myself to the interview, and nobody
Uh-huh.
seems to know about this part of you that I think it's very important. I don't know if you can maybe talk a little bit about why Germany and what were you doing there?
Germany was when I was a young kid. My cousin was taking German, and in high school. My cousins are several years older than me, and they were kind of my big sisters. And I'm like, what is this? And she's like, it's German. I'm taking a German class. And I was like, well, that's weird. And because, I was 10 years old and I'm like, why would you want to learn a foreign language? I live in a hick town in Oregon. And it kind of put it in the back of my head. And so when I was in college, I wanted to be the first person in my family to get a Bachelor of Arts degree. Everyone in the family are business oriented. They had BS, Bachelor of Science. And in order to do that, you had to take art history and a language. And I thought, well, German, because my cousin took it, and Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Schubert, Schumann, all these amazing composers were German speaking, whether they were Austrian or German. And it just kind of made sense. Like, how come all this amazing music came out of Vienna? The Austrian, back when Mozart and Beethoven and those guys were all living there. And so that's kind of like, that's it. Just really because all these amazing composers spoke German, and it, as it went on, a couple of years into my college, I heard about an exchange program. My state of Oregon, where I grew up, and I went to University of Oregon as an undergrad, they had an exchange program with the state of Baden-Württemberg, which is in South Germany. And of the cities that I had a choice to go to, Stuttgart was the biggest. And since I grew up in a hick town, a small town of 30,000 people, I really wanted the city life. I mean, later I went to grad school in New York City, and I was there 20 years, and I've been in LA 20 years. So I'm a total city dweller now. But when I was, 18, 19 years old, I just wanted to get out and be in a city. And Stuttgart had a very good opera. Oh, cool. And there was a lot of cool cultural things there. So it turned out to be a really amazing year. And I studied classical guitar with a guy named Harold Volt, who was a student of a guy named Carl Scheidt, who taught one of my heroes, Ralph Towner, who's a great classical guitarist, jazz pianist, improvises on classical guitar. He's also from a musical group called Oregon. Oh. And I actually got to meet him because he was classmates with my supervisor at University of Oregon, a guy named Ed Kammerer. And he's like, I went to school with Ralph. He's from Chehalis, Washington. He went to Oregon. And so that was pretty amazing. I went backstage and met Ralph at the Brit Festival, where years later, I ended up playing with the orchestra a couple of gigs. And he invited me, said, hey, if you're in Seattle, swing by. So I went to his house in Seattle and hung out. He's just a really, really down to earth, nice guy that happens to be a genius, so it's kind of amazing. So there's all these kind of interconnections, and anyway, I ended up, having an affinity for Europe, and I loved when I finally got back over there, I could, spruce my German up, and speak on, you probably remember me speaking German on stage and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Actually, in the Stuttgart, that's been one of my favorite Helmet shows that I've attended.
Yeah, cool.
That was amazing. And people love you there, man. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, Germans, they love music. I mean, the crowds there are always amazing and intense. And it's really interesting that, just like Berlin to Stuttgart to Munich, we played, all these towns, like, I want to think Langenfeld, Frankfurt is amazing. Cologne is amazing. We just have a great following there. And we played Heidelberg last year. And that was the first time we'd been there in 15 years or more, I think. So it was fun. It's cool. But
yeah, man, I remember like you guys playing for what to me seems like smaller cities, smaller cities, and people would come from other cities to see you.
Yeah,
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. There's a bit of that in the U.S. that where we do secondary market tours, but every tour is going to hit Minneapolis, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York. The major cities: Portland, Seattle, San Francisco. But we'll do these secondary market tours, and a lot of those people have to drive from far away to go see us in a place like Omaha or smaller town, which is I enjoy those. I love those kind of shows.
No, for sure, people seem that they appreciate music more, or it's not that they don't appreciate. It's not that in big cities they don't appreciate music more. It's just that in small cities they have more gratitude towards bands that come to play their shows. If that makes sense.
It's kind of true. I mean, if you if one out of 20 bands goes through a small town, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Like for some reason, Wollongong in Australia. It's a university town, and we don't play there every time we go, but when we do, it's always a crazy, cool, fun show at the university. So that's kind of, and I really enjoy. Actually, we had a fan get up on stage and play Wilma's Rainbow with us once.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, which was really fun. He's a good kid named Sam, and he was just down front, and he badgered me and badgered me and badgered me. And I'm like, do you know the song? He's like, yes. I'm like, get up here. And so that's kind of thing you can do in a smaller town, where
Sure.
you have a little more leeway and stuff. I also really like Adelaide, which is in South Australia, and it's just a really beautiful little city. I mean, it's not a small town, but it's a small city. It's really cool. So
no, for sure, man. Was it hard for you to adapt to Germany, coming from Oregon?
I was so excited, and so I had so much energy. When you're 22 years old, you have, it seems like, energy reserve, on reserve. I remember the jet lag. I remember the long flight, and I remember waking up at my friend on a futon on the floor, because I stayed with friends. I had met some German guys in Oregon who did the same exchange program I did, but came from Germany to Oregon. And when I met them, they were like, come crash with us before you move to the dorms or whatever.
Oh, cool.
And there was just a very loving, cool vibe. It was a guy named Rainer Kochheisler and Didi Neumann, are those guys, a guy named Ralph, who became my roommate later, a guy named Christian Moore that was from Cologne. And they were just really, I don't know, there's some kind of a community in Europe that, where people are very welcoming. And I mean, his mother would, every night she would put a clean washcloth and towel in my room, and they had the washcloth that had the opening in it that you put on your hand like that. And every night she put a chocolate bar, a Ritter Sport, and I became addicted to Ritter Sport chocolate. Just really loving, sweet, amazing people. And as you know, and every time we played Stuttgart for years, because everybody there knew I studied there, and they knew I loved Spätzle, which is with a Schwäbisch. It's just noodles, but it's made in a special way, and I ate it. I actually ate it yesterday in LA.
Cool.
My brother and his family were in town. We went to the Red Lion, that German restaurant over in Silver Lake, and I got Sauerbraten and Spätzle. It's delicious. So it's amazing. I feel I have some of my closest, dearest friends in the world are in Germany. Like Berlin, in particular. I have several really good friends in Berlin. So,
which is the city that you like the most visiting in Germany? Not really for playing, just like visiting.
Man, it's impossible to say, because I have such a romantic attachment to Stuttgart. But my German friends will make fun, because that's in the south, and it's a Schwäbisch dialect that they speak there. So people in the north make fun of people in the south, and I love Stuttgart, but because that was my home. But I really love Berlin, because I have a lot of friends there, and I've never once played Munich and not have the time of my life. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's so much fun. Like, people there they just go ape shit. The Bavarians are really intense, man. And it's and Cologne is an incredible cultural city. And my pal Kasper Brotzmann, who I did an album with called Zulu Time many years ago, I believe he's from Cologne. I think he lives in Berlin now. We've kind of lost touch. But I mean, there's just so many great cities. Frankfurt is fantastic, but it seems like we're always in Berlin, we're always in Munich, and we play Stuttgart about 7 out of 10 times. This tour we had in June that got canceled, we had Stuttgart on the bill. So yeah, there are a lot of. I'm missing so many cities. I like the kind of like who else said, some of the off the beaten path places. I'm drawing a blank right now because my brain's full of COVID shit. Like, you guys, I have COVID brain from sitting around on my ass for a year or whatever.
I hear you, man.
Are you composing a lot? Like, Since you've been, are you composing or creating music a lot since you've been?
I'm doing a bunch of different things. I'm producing an artist in New York and an artist in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm producing a metal band. We haven't started yet, but from back east, my dear friend Anthony Truglio. We just did a recording. I'm very proud of this. We did a recording of not Helmet, but it was myself and my Helmet drummer Kyle, who can play anything. When I produce sessions, I always hire Kyle because he can play. He played on a country singer I produced. He can play hardcore. He can play groove. He can do anything. So these people, Progress Humanity in Washington, D.C., who are they're ending global conflict is their goal. So they're in Afghanistan and Iraq and the Congo, Republic of Congo. They helped create a country for pygmies that have been cannibalized and held as slaves. But they asked me about doing a version of Let It Be, the Beatles song. And I saw different artists had done it, because they're going to do a kind of a collage compilation thing. And so I did an acoustic guitar vocal, like, a guy in Slovenia did that already, and people are doing a cappella. I said, I'm going to see if I can recruit some friends. I sent them the link to Progress Humanity, and they were like, this is amazing. We'd love to be involved. So we just did a recording, and they ended up, they're using my version as the template for the rest of the world. So they're going to send it out to 16 countries, and people will be doing their version on our music. So that was a labor of love that kind of took me 2 weeks to get happening and get it together and organize the studio and all that stuff. And writing wise, I'm not really writing anything right now. I'm working on, I'm just working to get the box set of cover songs done, and that's all done. That's been mixed, and it's getting mastered now. We did 4 covers. We did Mercy by Wire, Sleeping by the Beatles, Move On by Bowie, and ETI by Blue Oyster Cult. So really good cross section of bands and the musicians that influenced me. And then we also finally finished mixing or mastering 2 live Helmet shows, one from CBGB's from 1990, and then a show, the first time we played in Australia, which I call like the hangover show from hell at the big day out. It was when we first got to Australia, we went crazy. I mean, it was like, it's because it's January in New York, you're freezing your ass off, and you get to Australia and it's topless beaches and summertime. And we were just like Cooper's Ale we discovered, and it was us and Mudhoney guys just going off the rails, just being idiots, and had one of the most fun tours we've ever done in our life.
Yeah, Cooper's is great. I love that beer. It's
so good, man. It's such a beautiful place. Because every show I can hear the hangover in my singing. I'm just like, oh gosh. So, but I thought it would be a nice thing to release. It was cool. So, writing wise, I'm also working on this has been my fantasy project for 20 years of a jazz album. So I'm doing, it's like I'll pick a tune and I'll play it in 3 or 4 different keys, and try like a jazz standard, like Lullaby of Birdland. Try to find a voice, a key for my voice, something that's, and you can find a key. Well, I can sing it in that key, but it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Because like certain keys for some reason, G flat major, E flat minor for me works really well. It's a really good key for my voice. D flat, major, D flat B, which is like a half step apart. Those keys work well for my voice. So I've got a pretty extensive and ambitious list of songs that I'm going to do. So I spend time working on that. I have students now, guitar students, which I had no idea I was going to have this much fun with it, but I have many advanced students, which, I've had a couple of beginners, which is fun too, but the advanced students they really lit a fire under my ass, because they're like, what are those chords you're doing in Helmet? I have a guy, Nick, in London, who works with, he's a very, very, very accomplished musician already, but he's trying to expand his vocabulary. He works with Nick Oliveri, who's a pal of mine, a guy I know, and his band has played with us several times. Right. And so I'm kind of like, well, let me think about it. I actually just did a little quick video because we were also re-releasing the Page Hamilton distortion pedal through Protone.
Okay.
I reached out to him because we had a weird communication issue somehow. It was between management and him, and I was getting ready for tour last year, so I let it slip between the cracks. I was like, fuck this, I'm going to reach out to him. And he's like, fuck, I'd love to do it. And he said, you know what you should do is do a little series on YouTube. It's just like, you're playing it wrong. Because I always hear people teaching other people helmet songs, and I'm just like, nope. You know, it's like, that's not right. There's a measure of 5 there, you missed that. And like, there's just little details that people can't pick up. So I'm kind of still framing it out. I did Role Model today. I did a quick 3-minute version of here's the intro, which I call the chorus. Here's the verse. Here's the groove. But one of my students, I used it. He asked me to teach him that song, and I said, well, let's reverse engineer it. Let's analyze it and go. You know, what went into writing this song? And it's like, I didn't think about the Dorian mode, but I employed it, and I, you know, it's in D minor, and it's like I can play. What can I play against D minor? I can play natural minor, which is Aeolian. I can play Dorian with the Ray 6. I can play a harmonic minor with the Ray 7. I can play melodic minor with the Ray 6, 7. Also, I can build chords. So it's kind of been that. And writing wise, I think after the holidays, I'll probably dig in and do another Helmet album. That's because I'm really missing that. And so I'm hoping 2021 will have a, you know, we'll bounce back strong tour wise, and you know, so maybe by June, I don't know, who knows. I hope so. I'm gonna lose my mind and turn into like a beer gut fat slob, you know. It's like sitting around, yeah, all right, yeah.
Cheers. So let me ask you this. I have a couple of questions regarding what you mentioned, jazz, but you also mentioned CBGBs, and I have always wondered, when you moved to New York to study jazz, your master's degrees, were you attending punk rock shows? Were you attending metal shows, hardcore shows? Where did that, can you point down to the moment when you said, okay, I want to play distorted guitars. I want to play this.
I was gonna ask the same question. I had it already written down. Yeah.
I moved there in '85. It was a two years master's program. So I got my master's degree in 2 years in jazz guitar, and I thought, you know what the hell am I going to do now? You know, and it's not like I had one classmate. He's like, oh man, when we have a master's degree from Manhattan School of Music, everyone's going to hire us. I'm like, they are? I'm like, no, you still got to audition and still got to go out and work your tail off. So I got the Village Voice, just started answering ads. I auditioned for a really cool kind of folk band out in Long Island or Queens, I forget, called The Children. They were really neat, nice people. Wasn't the right gig for me. I auditioned for like a cover band in Queens, and they were cheesy. And then I auditioned for an original band in the East Village that didn't really float my boat. And then I found Band of Susans. Ooh. And I go, this is fucking cool. What is this? They have 3 guitars, and they're tuned. My guitar, I believe, was tuned to all E's or B's. And he took this kind of Glenn Branca, Reese Chatham guitar orchestra stuff. And I had never heard of Glenn or Reese. And I ended up playing with Reese. And then I ended up auditioning for Glenn Branca several months after getting in Band of Susans. And Glenn was like, he auditioned me in 5 minutes. He's like, you're amazing, you're in. And so I simultaneously worked on Symphony No. 6 with Glenn. And I'm a part of that recording. Devil choirs at the gates of heaven, angel choirs at the gates of hell. What's it's Symphony No. 6. I have to look up the.
Okay, no, I'll look it up. Is that the guitar thing?
Yeah, Glenn Brank, Sim 6. It was amazing. It was Devil Choirs at the Gates of Heaven was the subtitle. So it's symphony. It was his 6th guitar symphony.
Okay.
It was incredible music. And people ask me about my influence, and that's when, between Robert Poss and Band of Susans and Glenn Branca, that's what kind of got me into like this, because I had a distortion pedal when I was 19 years old, and I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I had an MXR Distortion Plus, which I still have sitting around here somewhere. Oh. And but I was just like any other idiot, put a pedal on and turn it up too high, and then so I'm with Robert Posty. He goes, well, I have this Rat pedal. I'm running into another Rat pedal, and the guitar ends up feeding back, and you getting these cool sounds out of it. And it was just it just kind of opened my eyes, and plus Robert turned me on to a lot of really cool music. Aside from playing with Reese Chatham and Glenn Branca, we toured with Wire, and they're lifelong friends. They're still heroes. They're still friends. I played on a song called All Fours on Object 47.
I love that album. That's amazing. Yeah. That's the last song, right?
Amazing album. Yeah, so good. And I actually did a gig with them in LA. I sat in and did 2 songs. Oh, and, we had a fucking blast, man. And we did their Drill Fest, I think they call it, up in Seattle. We headlined a night at the Crocodile, and then I stayed an extra night and played with them when they had a bunch of guitar players on stage, and it was really fun. And I played a song with this all-girl band whose name eludes me right now. Shoot, I got a T-shirt too. Shit, God, the T-shirt had like a Barbie doll with her head cut off and scissors. It was they were funny. They were. I said, you're playing that part wrong, and they were like,
Very punk rock.
Yeah, we did a Wire cover. I forget which song, something off Pink Flag, and it was really fun. Anyway, so Distortion kind of opened up this whole world for me, and I was in Band of Susans for less than a year. We did an album, and I brought some songs in. Robert got me into, he's like, I use a drum machine, a 4-track recorder, and I have a little SM57 mic, put it in front of the amp, and that's how I write. So I started doing that. I wrote a song called Shirley MacLaine, another song called Gay Should It Go, a song called Rumble, and a song called Bored Annoying. And they were like, well, these are really cool, Paige, but they're not right for our band. So at that point, I decided I needed my own band. That's when I formed Helmet. So because the Village Voice was such a big paper in New York, and I took out an ad in the Village Voice that was subsidized by a friend of mine because I didn't have enough money to pay for an ad. And after I got out of Band of Susans, I was working at Rockpool stuffing envelopes for minimum wage. And my friend Renee that worked there paid for my ad in the paper. And that's how I auditioned and found Stanier. And then Peter and I started playing because he was married to this woman that worked at Rockpool. And so I got him in, and then we auditioned bass players and found Henry. I believe he was bass player number 13 to audition. It was like lucky 13. So, yeah.
So I have another question from all your jazz knowledge. What did you bring of this jazz philosophy or this jazz attitude towards trying? And I actually wrote the question. Jazz has a lot of attitude towards always try to innovate, right? Like a mindset of a jazz player is, okay, I'm gonna try to innovate. Did you bring this to Helmet, or what stuff from jazz, apart from knowledge, what type of jazz mindset did you bring to Helmet?
People will listen to Helmet and go like, I don't hear jazz in there. And I'm like, good, because it's not fucking jazz. You know what I mean? And it's not hardcore, and it's not metal, it's Helmet, right? And this is the vocabulary. But the way that jazz, that my work ethic, my practice regimen, all the things that I did and I learned in jazz, I developed, my own style of playing the guitar. Because my mentor, a guy named Gary Hagberg, who worked with Howard Roberts, the great Howard Roberts, who started GIT, BIT, PIT, which is now MI, Musicians Institute in Hollywood. I teach, this is what I do. I teach the elements of music, things like what does a song consist of? Harmony, melody, harmony, rhythm, form, and text, meaning the words. So that holds true for all music with words. What are things that we can do to expand our knowledge of the fretboard? What happens when you play a chord? You sing notes that are in that chord generally, and that's the melody of the song. So here's the C major scale harmonized, and the chords are we'll stay in C major, and here's C major. You know what? I'll turn it on. Hang on.
Yes.
And so I start getting into, you know, because of jazz, like here's a CCL harmonize. So those are all the seventh chords that go with it. Well, in Helmet, I started hearing these riffs. I'm walking down the street and I get home one night at 4 a.m. and I'm like, oh, I hear this, it goes down. So I have to.
Okay.
Hear that D note. That's the riff I had in my head was. And it was, and I sat down and I don't have perfect pitch. I have relative pitch like many guitar players. And I go, I need to drop tune to get that riff. Well, that cured me of always, you know, of every song sounding like, you know, like everything was AC/DC because they write the best riffs ever. And, you know, I'm like, I got to get out of this AC/DC thing. And I started hearing these chords and finding my own voicing. So there's a Helmet chord 101. It's an F major 7 sharp 11 with no third. Well, I know that if I'm in F major, or you know, if I'm in C major, that's a Lydian chord. That's the sharp 11 here. That's this in jazz. I know I can superimpose these notes. Those are just shapes, sonic shapes that Howard and Gary talk about all the time. So I started hearing these licks, these riffs, and it came from listening to all kinds of music. And it's very classical music when you think about a riff as a motif, right? Dum 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 dum, bum 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 bum. So this was in my brain, in my heart, in my soul somehow from studying classical guitar and jazz guitar. But I wanted to play heavy music that grooved. And so sometimes I would apply things, but other times just because of my musical background, it was changing the way I was playing the guitar, and thus the Helmet vocabulary was kind of born. The other thing about jazz that is I went up to an old piano player once in Oregon, one of the local greats, this guy Butterfield. Anyway, this cool old jazzer dude, and I'm like, man, what are you playing on Stomping at the Savoy? You know, there's hardly any chord changes. He's like, I'm just trying to swing. But what is it about jazz? It swings, the groove, the feel. And when I met like Danny Korchmar, the great producer guitarist, and you know, T.M. Stevens, the great bassist from James Brown and Miles, and who he brought Steve Jordan with him, who is Keith Richards' drummer and great bass, plays everything, amazing. He's like, man, you guys are white boys that swing, you know. It's like, that's not metal, like it grooves. And I go, yeah, man, it's about the rhythm, you know. And that's definitely for jazz influence, you know. It's like when you think of a song like this, you know. That's gotta give it, right? That's swings, and it starts off in 5/4 because I heard that, you know. I didn't use my brain and go, I'm gonna write something in 5/4. I heard this lick, and it was in 5, and you know, it's just if you only listen to punk rock, you only listen to 4/4, you only listen to, you know, major key song, you know, then you're gonna write that. If you listen to everything, you're gonna write, you know, it's gonna influence you. And so the other thing about jazz that I love is obviously here's a set of chord changes, you know. So I've got to play over that, right? I'm just playing the changes, right? I'm improvising over the chord changes. So Helmet is modal music essentially, so it's based on a scale. So like, so now I'm not in drop tuning, but for example, so I tell my student, well, here, that's in D minor. So when I'm improvising over that, then we go to the 4 chord in the solo, and this is a jazz influence. I didn't pea brain is too small to go, I'm going to use the Dorian mode. I let my ears guide me, and my ears heard this. It's a 6, so I'm in G Dorian all of a sudden. And that's just, I mean, these are all different ways that jazz absolutely influenced the way I write, the way I sing, the way I hear music. And I think saying like, that the Beautiful Love was kind of a smartass thing that I wanted to do. I kind of tricked John and Henry into it. I go, just John, you know what, sound check when he says play the whole kit and you go ape shit. He said, just do that, man. Just go crazy. Because John would always be a little resistant to peace. I don't play jazz. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's just music, you know. It's like I don't want to play my tom-toms in the verse because that sounds like Killing Joke. And then I see him with Tomahawk and I go, you fucking asshole, you're playing your tom-toms in the verse. And he's like, you know, it's like, so Patton can get you to do it, but you won't do it for me. You know, so it's like he had these blocks. He was in his 20s and he had these like, I can't do this. You know, he's like, fuck, the Sex Pistols suck, you know, whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. And you know, the kid was is a phenomenal musician and drummer. So, you know, I used what I could get him to do. But so then I got Henry. I said, just go crazy on the bass, just go ape shit, and I'm going to put it together. And I put it together in the studio. Then I did the intro. And I did the jazz guitar intro, and then, you know, we go into that noisy part. And it turned out to be a really cool, you know, song on the album, you know. And that was kind of me going like, yeah, is this jazz enough for you? Because everybody's like, you guys aren't jazz. I'm like, how's this? You know, and it was kind of funny and just obliterating a beautiful, perfect song. That was
for sure.
Like so. Yeah, it's a long-winded way of saying that's how I believe jazz, you know, influenced Helmet for sure.
Wow, no, sorry, I missed you there.
Yeah, it certainly influenced, you know, everything I do too, you know, like everything I write and play and sing, everything, you know, it's like, it's very much part of my daily routine. So
right, and it's very important that you mentioned that, because whenever I talk to you or email you, you're always either finished practicing, but I know for a fact that you practice every day. Where does that how do you maintain this motivation to keep practicing and to keep learning, even though it's been like 50 years in, I don't know, like,
yeah, I think it's twofold, maybe threefold. Part of it's at this point I don't know what else to do. And you know, and part of it is fear, like I'm going to lose it if I don't practice. But the main part of it, honestly, is that I love it. I love playing the guitar and I love singing. I love writing songs. I love playing music. It's still, I'm working with these kids at School of Rock now. I have my songwriting class, and then I'm teaching students from, you know, 11 years old. Well, the youngest was 9 years old up to like 45, 50 years old. And I'm saying, just as if you keep it about music, if you make it about, I want to be a rock star, or I want to be famous, or I want to be rich, or I want to get laid, or I want to be cool, or whatever, then eventually that's going to dry up, because it's a superficial, you know, false, you know, yes, many musicians get rich and famous in rock and roll, and many musicians meet lots of girls and, you know, whatever. But there's no way you're going to maintain your creative spark if that's what you're in it for. If you love music and you're interested every day in expanding what you do, and that's what I do. I pick up the guitar every day and I discover something new. You know what I mean? And that's Miles Davis said it when he's doing his interview with I think it was Morley Safer in 60 Minutes, one of the last interviews he did. And he's like, you know, it's like I'm always thinking of something like that I want to do, that I want to solve a musical problem. I'm paraphrasing, but there's something here that I got to figure this out, you know, and I love that. To me, it's fascinating that it seems to be limitless. It is limitless. And when people are like, oh, the guitar's dead, rock's dead, I'm like, God, I feel bad for you, man. I don't feel like that at all, you know. And a few friends, I had coffee a couple of years ago with I'm spacing on her name right now, a bass player with Gwen Stefani. What's her name? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I know you're friends with the drummer, right? Or no, that's Maroon 5.
Yeah, that's Maroon 5. What the heck is her name? No, not the guys in. Really cool girl. Oh God, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. They're showing the
When
her
Stefani.
her band. Yeah, whatever her band is. Uh, um, anyway, she was like, Paige, you can't be harsh on people for not being original. It's like your thing is so rare, like that you guys came out and had this different approach to music, and it's like that's gonna happen. It's not, and I'm not patting myself in the back or whatever, but that's just that she said to me, that's not something that happens every day, and I'm aware that it was this different kind of approach and different kind of sound and stuff when we came out, and Poison, Winger, and Warrant were ruling the airwaves, and on MTV or whatever. And then Nirvana came out, and people were like, the next Nirvana, and I'm like, Helmet? Like, we don't sound nothing like Nirvana, man. That's really great punk rock inspired pop music. Really great melodies, great singing, great words. But it's pop music, you know what I mean? That's not Helmet at all. I could call us a pop band, but we're not, we're not pop. It's like,
right.
It's post-hardcore alternative, East Coast grunge metal, whatever the fuck they want to call it,
No, for sure.
It's one of those things. Like, I think that's what I still love touring. I still love playing these Helmet songs. When the band broke up and I had that 7-year hiatus, and I had Gandhi, and Gandhi guys were like, let's do some Helmet songs so we have enough songs to play, because I only had like, I've got a handful of Gandhi songs, maybe like 6 or 7 songs, and people wanted longer sets, and so we started doing Helmet stuff. And I really love playing that music. I mean, when I played with Bowie, it was mind blowing. It was incredible. But he even said to me, he was like, well, it's not really super heavy, he goes, and I was like, I can play beautiful, or like sensitive and beautiful or whatever, but you miss the physical nature of it, the physical internal, escape from, your body kind of feeling that Helmet provides, it's just
sure. It's very groovy, man. It seems that dun, dun, dun,
yeah.
the riffs and everything. You have to move, man. If you go to a Helmet show and you don't move your head, you don't have any soul in you.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. You're like,
Question regarding all that influence and stuff. Could you name maybe a couple or three persons that had influenced you through your work? Let's say like some producers or musicians, or let's say, I don't know, somebody that has influenced you in your life, or maybe in your music, that you have worked with or you have known because of your career, because of your touring and stuff.
So that's twofold a little bit, right? Like who has influenced, or is it specifically who influenced me that I got to later work with, like Bowie, for example?
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, like Bowie, or maybe a producer, like a record producer or something like that. Has made you change your, I don't know, your way of seeing things.
Yeah, every person I've worked with has influenced me, whether they were amazing at what they do or shit at what they do. And that, like you can work with somebody that's bad, and I take notes and I learn from it. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this again. And I produced a band many years ago, and they did their demos on a like Roland digital recorder, and it was all saturated, kind of like a Line 6 kind of fake guitar sound. And when we got in, I had like, a vintage Les Paul, VHT amps, Marshall amps, and amazing the Carriage House SSL console there where Pantera did Cowboys from Hell. That's where we recorded. Amazing room, amazing board. And they wanted their guitar sound from their demos. And I was like, after we'd worked on it, I had all this amazing gear, real mics, real pre's, real guitars and amps. And they were like, it doesn't sound like our demo. And I quit. I was like, okay. You guys are fucking tone deaf, and if you want that, then just do that. I'm out. It was pretty. They were young, and I just, but I learned from that. You know, you can't, I mean, every band I've produced, I've learned something from. But many of the young bands, they just have this unbelievable penchant for shooting themselves in the foot. You know, I had a singer from a band that I really loved actually take me out for lunch. He was delivering chickens down at this place called Birds by my old house in Beechwood, where the Hollywood sign is, where I used to live in Beechwood. And they shot themselves in the foot, man. Like the bass player was their producer, and he was, they just sabotaged the project, and like they did stupid shit. And he later, he said, "Can I take you to lunch?" And, you know, he apologized. He goes, "We didn't know what we're doing." And all these people pulling us, like the A&R guy, the manager, or whatever. And I go, you know, my goal is to not influence. I'm not trying to influence you towards my way of thinking. You brought me in, you hired me to teach you, to show you. And because I have like a million years of experience, and I've played on 25 amazing movie scores, and I've scored, you know, a dozen movies, and I've you know, produced 20 albums or, you know, whatever, and I got, you know, I have this jazz knowledge, I can improvise, I can, you know, I have a lot of experience,
right?
And I'm gonna you're gonna use my ears and my experience to you know, help you not make the same mistakes I made. I'm here to make the music better. I don't give a shit if I said, you guys, I might upset you from time to time if I tell you something sucks. Don't take it personally. I'm just letting you know it sucks, you know. And if I tell you it sucks, I better have something better, which I do, you know. I mean, and if 9 out of 10 of my ideas don't work, all you have to do is just try them, you know. And so, like when I worked with Butch Vig, he was amazing. I worked with Dave Sardi, he was amazing. I worked with Terry Date, he was amazing. I worked with Andy Wallace, he was amazing. I worked with Wharton Tears, he was amazing. I worked with a producer, I worked with Mike Robinson, who did Led Zeppelin at the BBC. I worked with a guy in Australia whose name I can't even remember, who was an incredible engineer. I learned from him. I worked with Albini. I learned stuff from him, you know. And you know, the guy that I just did the Let It Be track with, Jim Kaufman, I love his work. And you know, Charlie Clouser, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from Trent Reznor working with him. And all I'm doing is just like, I'm just trying to make the music better. I'm not trying to make you have hits. I don't give a shit, you know, because like that's to me, that's an impure motive. I don't know. I mean, it's a non-musical motive. It's a motive like I want to get rich and get paid, get laid, and be famous. And that's not what music's about, man. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. Well, you know, I'm like, no, music is a form of expression unlike any other form of expression. It's universal. I've played in 60 countries in the last 3 years, whatever. And you know, they don't speak my language, you know. They don't speak English or German, whatever. They speak, you know, Japanese or Spanish or, you know, whatever language it is, Portuguese, and you connect with them, you know. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in front of, you know, 50 people. I've seen it happen on the beach in Brazil in front of 150,000. You know what I mean? You connect. Music connects you, and that's what it's about. It's about, you know, it's about doing something that's magical and that communicates at another level. And then through all this stuff that we've gone through with COVID and this awful administration we've had for the last 4 years, this divisive, lying, you know, destroyer of democracy. Like I want to push love and let love win and show you the music. And this is what Let It Be is about. We're releasing Let It Be. It's like, yeah, just let it be. All this stuff happen. Let's rebuild. Let's build relationships, not break them down. You know what I mean? Not tear people apart because they're different. You know, I can disagree with somebody and still and not want them. When some guy said the only good Democrat, some Trump supporter, is a dead Democrat, you're like, really? Like, wow, that's pretty pathetic, man. Like that someone's political affiliation would, you know. I saw some professor at some college say, if you voted for Biden, do me the favor of unfriend me. You're a terrible person. You're an ignorant, and you're whatever. It's like, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Because this guy that's lost $30 billion in 10 years in his casinos, that's declared bankruptcy 6 times, that's fucked, you know, hookers and strippers and fucking porn stars and cheated on his wives, and it's fucking like he's a good role model. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. No,
our international import-export deficit is historically high. It's like, I think it's $67 billion under this guy. This is before COVID hit. He's alienated foreign countries. What our new guy will do is he'll rebuild relationships with it. You know, he wants to go up against China. Well, we'll team up with the EU and with South America. We'll team up with people instead of saying fuck you, we're on our own. Because that doesn't work. This thing, I saw some idiot on some thing last night talking about, oh, this global thing is bullshit. I'm like, oh, really? So, like the rest of the human race, everyone can go suck a bag of dicks because they're not Americans? Really? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We don't fucking own this world. We don't own this land. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just the way it is. We create these borders, we create these boundaries, and to build these walls, it's absolutely goes against everything I believe in. Just everything, you know.
No, man, I agree with what you said, and I think it's beautiful that you said that we need to unite, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? I mean, I didn't choose to born in Mexico. You didn't choose to born in the States, right? So I think it's beautiful that we need to unite as people. You know, it's not. We need to stop this us against them. You know, it's the same team at the end of the day.
And understand that we are different. Like I think that's the main problem, that people want everybody to be like you and think like you, and we have to understand that we're different. Like we have different thoughts, different I don't know, culture, different stuff that make you different. That's what we need to understand, you know.
It's fear of something that you're unfamiliar with, and that's like, look, I've been writing songs about this from day one. You know, like there's a song like "Driving Nowhere" is on Aftertaste album is about just that. It's about some guy leaning back in his lazy boy and experiencing the world through television. So everything he sees is like on TV. So. It was when I was growing up, the Ruskies, the Red Scare. I wrote that song, Red Scare from Dead to the World, because I remember growing up, it was like the Ruskies, the commies, you fucking commies. And there was the McCarthy, I don't know if you guys saw an amazing movie with Bryan Cranston called Trumbo, about Dalton Trumbo, the blacklisted Hollywood writer. It's a fucking amazing movie. Just watch it. Trumbo, Trumbo.
Okay.
But this has been going on from day one, and what they call like create fear, tell people that everyone else is fucked, and if you don't think this way, then you're fucked. And now we went from Russia to Arab nations, Muslims are evil, Muslim, this side. I remember my parents, may they rest in peace, so I obviously love with all my heart and soul, but we're politically much more conservative than I am, and they would listen to Fox News, and for years, it was all you'd hear. I'd walk downstairs to get some food or whatever when I'm visiting them, and I'd hear stuff just like on Fox is Obamacare, 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 Obamacare. It was like that was the catchphrase for badness. Then before that, it was liberal, 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 liberal bad, liberal, liberal, liberal. It's just fucking, they just brainwash people. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Seriously? And people on the left are guilty of it too. GOP is awful. GOP, Republicans suck. Fuck the American flag. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? I was just watching thing on Iwo Jima. Our country was attacked in Pearl Harbor, and these heroic guys defended freedom against fucking Hitler, and I mean millions of people were murdered. Like I'm patriotic, and that's part of the reason the right I have is to voice my opinion when I disagree with someone. And we don't own this world. You're renting this space that you're in for 70 to 80 years if you're lucky. You know what I mean? I got another, with all the drugs and booze and I've done, maybe I got another 15 years, I hope. We'll see. See if I can accomplish something, in 15 years. Finally get that jazz album done. Finally gonna get that electric guitar orchestra piece written. So these are my goals. I'm also, the other thing I forgot to tell you guys about the writing wise, Andres, I forgot to, is, you know, Thomas Lange, the drum icon. He's on the cover of Modern Drummer like every other month. Like,
Sounds
the great.
familiar. Are you gonna play with him?
He was playing with Falco when he was 17. He's from Vienna. And then he moved to London. He was like the session guy, Spice Girls, Take That, Robbie Williams, all playing on all those. Then he met an American woman, moved to Los Angeles, and I ran into him at the drum enshrinement for either Steve Gadd or Steve Jordan one night. And he said, "I'm a fan of yours. I've always wanted to work together." So we kind of off and on have done some writing sessions, and we're putting some together. It's like we'll get together, you know, for a day, and then like a year later get together for another day, you know. So it's a long, you know, it's like one of these, but it's really fun to write with somebody that's that talented, and that he's a drummer, but he's a musician. He put out an album called Prog Pop, so if you should check it out. It's fucking cool as shit, man.
How do you spell it?
I told him it reminds me of Gino Vanelli a little bit, because my band loves, we listen to Gino Vanelli on the road. I just want to stop and tell you that I feel bad. You know, that song. But he has all this cool prog, you know, funk, cool shit in his music. Really great guitarist and songwriter stuff. But yeah, so that's another project. And we're writing some content for this app, because he's opening this is the biggest music school in the world. Is called 9 Beats, and it's in China.
Wow.
And they have 3 million online students, something like 400,000 physical students in China. And so we're doing like a Paige Hamilton app, like where we've already done the mixes. Toshi Kasai, one of my main engineers that I work with.
Shout out to Toshi, he's the best.
The best. He's amazing, man. He mixed the live stuff, and he mixed the cover songs. Except for the Bowie cover, Jay Baumgartner did that one. So we're doing, you know, that music -1, where you can, like, if you're a bass player and you want to play unsung, just hit mix 2, and that's like all the other instruments minus the bass. Or if you're a drummer and you want to play, mix 3 will be all the other instruments and my lead vocal with no drums. So I think we did about 5 songs, something like that. So that's going to be part of the app, but we're also, you know, writing some material for it. So it's that's really been a fun project.
Wow, no, that looks amazing. So I know you're busy. How are we on time? Do we have chance for another question?
Yeah, a couple more questions. Yeah. Let me look here and make sure that's good.
We really appreciate this, man, talking to us.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. The first email I had the city card with the condo certs on it. I can't find it. Okay, never mind. Oh God. Okay. So much crap. I've signed so many petitions, and you know, I just have so much. You know, the last couple of years of you know, political things. My inbox is just flooded, and because once you sign the petition, they're like, "Can you do one more thing?" And you're like, yeah, "Okay, yes. Well, I know we need to swing Georgia. I know we do." It's like, it's a lot, you know. But it's like the least I can do is like sign a few petitions to get these scumbags away from our government, you know.
No, for sure, man. I mean, you have to activate yourself to make a change, right? Otherwise, you can complain. I mean, I don't mean you as Paige, but like people complain.
Yeah,
they don't do shit, you know. It's very easy to complain about stuff like, oh, Mexico, because I live in Mexico, right? But,
yeah.
But if I don't do anything to improve my country, then what's the point of complaining, right?
Yeah. That's this thing with Progress Humanity was such an amazing, just came along at the perfect time, and it's just been so exciting, and the people are just passionate and dedicated and just really good people. Actually, the VP guy, one of the main guys there, is helping me. I just did the role model, the helmet song, and I'm trying to figure out how to present this little YouTube thing where I teach helmet songs. And he's really good with that kind of the film stuff, you know, like putting stuff together. So he's helping me out with that, just because he's a cool dude. Like, it's really amazing. They're just really good people. Yeah, it's I mean, look, I recorded a song and you got a bunch of great musicians and friends involved. And, you know, it's not like I'm changing the world over here, but if it increases awareness and it helps people, you know, get on the Progress Humanity bandwagon and, you know, end global conflict. Can't we do that? We can do that.
Right.
Know?
That's
like,
awesome. Yeah. That it's very cool to hear that you are like doing something to improve what your country is going through. Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
Thanks, man. So this question comes from a really good friend of the show. It's my friend Ivan. He's like a big fan of helmets since like 92. So I'm gonna read his question. And it's cool because it has to do with the Pro-Tone pedal that you're releasing.
Yeah.
So the question is, hello, Mr. Hamilton. I have been a huge helmet fan since 92. I have always believed that your sound is very solid and very well structured. I just saw that the Pro-Tone brand designed a distortion pedal for you, and it seems spectacular to me. That pedal is already, okay, so this is the question. Is that pedal is already in your configuration to play live, or are you going to match it with your Fried sound?
I'll show you. Let's see. I think I have it here. I pulled my, oh yeah. I have my, I kind of tore Guitarland apart a little bit because I was doing, I can't remember what I was writing. I bet I had to have the keyboard accessible. But so this is what I have. This is the board I travel with. I have a rig in Europe, as you know, Joel, like in Prague. That's my main rig over there. But I have a satellite board that I take everywhere. So if I'm going to fly to Brazil or, you know, Mexico City, for example, we were supposed to be there in October. We had a pretty extensive South American tour planned for October. Did I tell you about that? Like,
no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were doing a city north of Mexico City. I forget, San Jose. I want to say Guadalajara. We had Santiago and Buenos Aires. We had our biggest ever South American tour was planned. Hopefully we'll get it rebooked and we'll happen to get it. But sure, so if I'm doing the fly dates like Australia, I just take this little satellite board with me, which has my signature pedal. Oh, can you see that?
Wow. Yeah.
So I got is it glary? But hang on. Let me see if I can.
I can. I think we can see it. It's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, it's cool, right? It's
amazing.
Here. I can change this. I got this new thing that I really like because I've been doing so much.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the Sig Pedal right here. And that's just I use that as a tuner, but I also carry an extra one of those for my Bullet mic, my green Bullet. And which is the blues sound I get. But so this goes with me everywhere, plugs into my Europe rig, plugs into my US rig, and then this is my only board when I do fly days. And what I'm using my signature distortion for is for my solos. So if I'm plugging it into the front of my Fryette. So the Fryette is still my rhythm sound, unless I'm overseas and I'm using like a Marshall, which is my go-to if I'm because you can't get Fryette everywhere, unfortunately. So
have you thought about getting like a small Fryette? You know how amps are doing like the small amp thing like a head?
Yeah, this is what I've been using for movie stuff when I have to go to a session now. I have my Fryette preamp here, but this is Stevie's amp that I use now for movie stuff. So this is what I'll be taking to this is the lighting. I'm so bad at this. Hang on one sec. How do I switch that like that? Yeah, there.
Oh shit.
Yeah, this is his small amp, and it's got a cab sim, all these outs here, so I can record DI, and it sounds incredible. So this has been my little amp that from now on, when I go to Australia, I'll carry this on the plane. It's in a little bag this size, right?
Wow, that's awesome. I've been thinking about getting something like that, like a preamp or something. And I was actually looking at the one you show us, the Fryette. It has everything. Yeah.
We're doing Stevie actually reached out recently. I did the New York Hardcore Chronicles in this really cool New York show. And they, Neil, who works with Stevie, asked me, and Stevie as well. They said, we're gonna reissue the Ultra Lead, which is my amp. And we want to kind of do something in conjunction with me. So there might be a limited run of like a Page Hamilton / Helmet Ultra Lead. Hopefully, well, I'm like, Steve, let's do this. I have some ideas how it should look. Because I want some red, like the helmet red, like the helmet red logo, some helmet red in with the black, and just do. What if you just did 6 of them or 10 of them or whatever? I don't know. I think it'd be really cool. So he's never done that before. So we'll see. Yeah, Steve's amazing. He's just absolutely brilliant. One of the most brilliant amp designers I've ever worked with. He's so great.
Those sound tremendous. I think those are one of my favorites. That and Soldano. Never heard of either album.
I use the Fryette on every there's Fryette every movie I've ever done, every Helmet tour, obviously. I use it with Bowie. I use it with Ben Neal. The only thing I don't use it on it for is jazz. I have a thank God Fender. My friend Mike Tempesta got me a Fender George Benson Deluxe Reverb, and that's incredible. Like, so it's like, and I've always been a Fender guy for jazz. I just like the way they sound. I had an Ampeg B12. I've had 2 of those, but stupidly sold them when I moved from New York. But yeah, Fender's great for jazz sound, but Fryette for everything else. It's incredible.
So, man, I mean, I know you're a busy man, and we thank you enough. I mean, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. So much fun. Let's definitely plan another one in a couple of months.
Yes, for sure, man. Because I mean, we have a lot to talk about.
Are you still gonna do the tour in South America?
What?
Are you still gonna do the tour in South America 2021, or?
I hope so. I hope so. It's kind of out of our control. We're just waiting for the government to, well, I think the new administration has a bit of a plan for COVID, not a bit of a plan. They have an actual plan, rather than, I think Trump is thinking he can just keep go golfing and COVID's going to go away. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be working. Yeah. But Biden has a task force there. Once we get this guy out of there, he's impeding right now. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's going on. He's impeding the transition, which is essentially treason. So he's endangering our country. He's endangering our security, and but he doesn't give a shit. It's about him. It's all about him. And yeah. So once we get the new administration in, and we have a plan for COVID, how to combat it. And obviously the vaccine will help. That might start in the spring, maybe. Then we can start talking about touring. But right now, they're just, they won't let us. So it's just not going to. So we're ready. I am so ready.
Yeah, no, I mean, I asked that because maybe if you came here to Mexico, we can do a live episode.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, thank you so much again. I mean, I love you, man. You're
love you too, Joel. So good to see you. You look great. You look healthy.
Yeah.
I like the little facial hair.
Yeah. My
Mexican mustache. I look forward to hanging when I'm down there. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Acabas de escuchar Conversaciones de Altura.